being a brilliant historian or a political theorist or economist, there's no reason to believe that's going to make you happier. There's no correlation at all, I don't think. Or likewise, being a brilliant chemist or nuclear physicist or neuroscientist. Is there any reason to believe that if you become really brilliant, chair of your department, National Academy of Science, Nobel laureate, that this is going to somehow make you happier in the sense of genuine happiness, not just getting a big buzz off of reputation, fame, and so forth? The answer is no. This kind of knowledge that one gleans from physics, chemistry, economics, history, and so forth is not really correlated in any significant way with one's flourishing as a human being, one's state of well-being. And this has come to be normal. The pursuit of happiness seems to be rather unrelated to the scientific or academic pursuit of knowledge. And then conversely, the pursuit of knowledge, whether in the humanities or sciences, technology, mathematics, seems to be really quite unrelated to happiness. And both of those seem rather unrelated to virtue. So these three, and that's what I'm really getting at when I speak of a life of meaning, in the Buddhist context, which I really, really, really embrace, to devote oneself to the Buddhist path, to a path of spirituality in the Buddhist context, is to devote oneself to a path of genuine happiness. If you're not, you're missing something really important. It is definitely in the pursuit of knowledge, truth, and understanding. If you're not, it's not Buddha Dharma. The root of suffering is ignorance. The key to liberation is wisdom. This has to have something to do with truth. It's got to. But the Buddhist tradition, I think, gives us an enormously important message that's not entirely alien to Western civilization as a whole, but which has been lost to a very large extent. And that is that the cultivation of virtue, of being a better human being, greater altruism, greater compassion, greater mindfulness, greater patience and tolerance, greater humility and loving kindness, that these actually, and not falling into hatred, racism, belligerence, arrogance, craving, and so forth and so on, these mental afflictions, that healing these mental afflictions and cultivating these virtues, this is integral to leading a meaningful life. Now, I think a lot of people would say that. If you're pursuing a meaningful life, does this mean that you're on a path to seeking to become a better person? A lot of people, I think, would say yes. I certainly do. The Dalai Lama certainly would. And so let's call that virtue. Attenuation of afflicted tendencies, a cultivation of very wholesome, beneficial ones. But where Buddhism comes in with a resounding note here, which is really out of alignment with modern norms, it is that if you are to realize the deepest truths, the nature of Rigpa, pristine awareness, the nature of emptiness, if you are, let alone realization, if you're going to cultivate your mind in extraordinary ways, like developing shamatha, a very high state of attentional balance, extremely refined attention, or if you're going to develop bodhicitta, this heart of altruism, of compassion and loving kindness, if you're going to transform your mind in exalted ways, and if you're going to fathom deeply and in a transformative way some of the most fundamental facets of reality, like the emptiness of inherent nature, Buddha nature, and so forth and so on, you must be living a life of virtue. You will not get to it. You may get a conceptual understanding and be able to teach it as a professor in a classroom, and so pass on the words. But you will not get the realization, and you will not experience a transformation unless you're leading a profoundly ethical life. And the more advanced practice you're engaging in, the more advanced the level of ethics. If you're following a monastic way of life and seeking individual liberation, you must follow very good fundamental Buddhist ethics. If you're seeking perfect enlightenment, the Bodhisattva ethics are far more demanding. If you're following Vajrayana, the Vajrayana Samayas are much more demanding than the Bodhisattva ethics, and they're all inclusive, the earlier ones. And so there is a profound theme that is not common in our society, that the pursuit of truth requires the cultivation of virtue, and the pursuit of truth will yield genuine happiness. This is not in our common parlance these days. I think it was in medieval Christianity, it was in early Judaism, it is in Vedanta, it is in Taoism. But in the modern world, the pursuit of happiness, truth, and virtue seem like three things, like bingo, bridge, and canasta. They're different games, you know? Whereas from a contemplative perspective, these are not different games. They are part and parcel of the same pursuit, and we can call that dharma, and we can call that the pursuit of an ever more meaningful life. And I embrace that wholeheartedly. And I really believe it's true. I think there are truths that we can know only if we're living a profoundly virtuous life, because a profoundly virtuous life is one that's lived in accordance with reality. And if I'm leading an unethical life, this means to that extent I'm leading a life that is incongruent with reality. So how can I access that for which my lifestyle is going in a different direction? But these are truths, unlike knowing the periodic table or how many planets there are around other stars in the Milky Way. These are truths which, when known experientially, radically transform and purify the mind and yield genuine happiness. So this is an unusual set of truths, and it's an unusual type of happiness, and it's a specific quality of virtue that is conducive to both happiness and the pursuit of truth, and it's all one integrated pursuit, and we'll call that dharma. And I embrace it with all my life.